Blue zones. Have you ever heard of them? They're a place where folks are living longer and healthier, and proposed is that they have the most centenarians, those who live to 100 and beyond. So when you first hear the word blue zone, you might think, oh, what is that, some kind of resort? But it's not. It's supposedly something that we should all strive for, and that's what we're going to discuss today. What can we learn from the blue zones? Is it something we want to eat like them? Do we want to live like them? Is it going to make a huge difference in our lives? So we're going to examine that, and then I'm going to give my opinion. Not that my opinion matters that much, but I always call it as I see it. And at the end of the day, remember, each one of us has to make these decisions on our own for our own health and well-being. So it's good to explore, and the blue zones do get a lot of news, and it's good for us to dig into it a little bit and see what we can get from it. Now, the blue zone areas, there's basically 5 around the world. First one's in Icaria, Greece, Sardinia, Italy, Okinawa, Japan, the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, and Loma Linda, California. Now, we're going to talk basically about several things that they have in common. Obviously, all 5 are not living identically, but there's an individual named Dan Buettner, and he's documented a lot of information. He spent many years researching these areas, visiting these areas and researching them, some for National Geographic, and just as he got into the blue zone, he really got into it. And so he's proposed books. Many books are out there, videos and things that we can learn, and we're going to talk about 9 or 10 of the things that they have in common and that he's extracted that he thinks would be beneficial for everybody to do, basically. So let's get into some of those, and then we'll talk about them in a little more depth and see, again, because as prominent as they are and as many people kind of believe in that, there's actually people on the other side who say other things. So we'll talk about both aspects of it. But the basic idea is that they live longer without many of the diseases that we have, the chronic ailments that we have here in the United States. They seem to get them much later in life, if at all, and live a healthier life. And as I said, many times they live well into their 90s and to 100, and a good quality of life. And that's what's proposed, but we'll dig into that. So the first thing that they have in common between all 5 of these groups is that they move naturally. Here in this country, we try to propose movement through going to the gym and outside activities like biking and running and different activities like that, where theirs is incidental. It's just part of it's ingrained in their daily lives. Some of the areas, they might have big hilly areas, and they're constantly walking up and down on a daily basis. They're farming, they're gardening, and so their movements are very normal. They walk to work, they walk to school, and these are the things that works for them. Second thing they have is that they know their purpose. They have a reason for waking up in the morning. And according to the author, knowing your sense of purpose adds up to 7 years to your life expectancy. So that's pretty significant. And knowing your purpose, I'll talk about that later, but it seems to be common in all 5 of these areas. The third one is that they know how to take it easy and work on their stress load, because they do have stress. No matter where you live in the world, everyone's going to have stress, but they've created routines to shed that stress, whether it's meditating, taking naps, or going to happy hour like the Sardinians. So I'm not so sure about that one, but it seems to work for them. Number 4, they don't overeat. The Okinawans have a phrase called hara hachibu, and it's basically a mantra that reminds them to stop eating when they're 80% full. So the idea of not overeating, that's literally a foreign concept here in the United States, because overeating seems to be a sport entertainment for us, and I think we've all done it to some degree. The 5th one is that they eat plants. They're basically a plant-dominated That's their diet. Beans are the cornerstone of most of the centenarian diets. They do eat meat in different places, according to this research of Dan Buettner and others. But it's maybe like 4 or 5 times a month on average that they do that. Something number 6 is interesting. They drink in moderation if you choose to drink. Now the only ones in Loma Linda, California, that's basically who they're following. They're a group of Seventh-day Adventists, a religious group, and they abstain from alcohol. So interesting. They're still part of the blue zones, but that one group, they don't engage in any alcohol. Well, the other countries, they moderately do and consume alcohol. But going along with that, the 7th point is they belong to a spiritual community. Denomination doesn't seem to matter in these areas, but belonging to a spiritual community, it's a common theme among these blue zone folks that live in these various regions. Number 8, they put loved ones first. Families are very high on the list, and whether it's grandparents, parents, children, all trying to be close and keeping everybody nearby and being together as often as possible. And closely linked to that is they build a social circle, they stay social, and happiness is contagious for these folks in these areas. So the key strategic takeaways from these nine points or 9 areas, that they show that health is an unconscious byproduct of an ecosystem rather than a constant pursuit of discipline. Creating an environment where the healthy choice is the easiest or most unavoidable choice is more effective than relying on willpower alone. So that's basically that in a nutshell. Obviously, you can dig deeper and do more research, but that's what they try to propose out there. And you would think, well, sounds pretty impressive if they're living in their 90s and 100s and doing it well. It's kind of like drop the mic, and that's how we all should be living. We all should be incorporating that. But I'm going to hold it there a second, because there's actually other individuals who don't agree with all the information, and I want to share some of that just to give both sides of the story. The only thing I do want to say before we move into that is research definitely shows that our environment and lifestyle choices contribute more significantly regarding longevity than our genetics. And a lot of people feel that genetics are the main contributing factors. So we want to be mindful of that. So a lot of folks, their first thing they might say is, well, I got bad genes from my parents, and we have all kinds of health situations that have been passed down in our families. But really, the way we live our lives can overcome some of those things. I've heard it said that 70 or 80% is our lifestyle, and genetics play a little role later in life. So if we do the right things for the first multiple decades of our lives, 40, 50, 60 years, we can overcome some of those genetic things that might be against us. But getting back to the blue zones, there's a lot of arguments against the information, and I'm not here to judge or take a side necessarily, but it does make you pause and think about it. Like Dan Buettner fully is supportive of the blue zones. Actually, now I think he has blue zone meals that you can buy, frozen meals. So some might say, well, maybe that's he's maybe benefiting off of his research, and I'm not here to judge either side that way. I'm just trying to see what can we extract so that we can live better, a longer health span, and have a good, long, healthy life. So some of the inaccuracies, there's another individual who's a researcher, and his name is Saul Newman. And the key arguments against the blue zone accuracy is that there's a lot of inaccuracies, that a lot of centenarians were deceased or had clerical errors on their age records, especially in places like Okinawa and the Nicoya Peninsula and Costa Rica. In some areas, there's pension fraud, fraudulent claims for pensions from deceased individuals, inflated centenarian numbers. I kind of can believe that because then we find out this past year that there's individuals here in the United States who are deceased and still collecting Social Security somehow. So I believe in some of these other countries that aren't as big as the United States or as, let's say, modern, that this could be happening there. Then there's other also dietary contradictions that data suggests that some in the blue zones, like the Okinawans, actually have low vegetable intake and high meat consumption, contradicting the diet claims. And then even some of the misleading lifestyle claims about religious adherence might not totally align with the actual data. So there have been arguments back and forth, and again, I'm not here to judge, but there's enough individuals. If you go on YouTube, you'll find quite a number of videos of individuals who say that the information about the blue zones isn't totally accurate. Individuals who claim to have gone there themselves and done the research and seen some of the activities of people there. So they've been contradicting each other. So that's for you to decide. I encourage you to look into that. We don't want to jump into anything on this channel. Remember, this is LZ23 Strength. We strive to exert ourselves, elevate our health, and evolve in mind and body. And the idea of elevating and evolving means that we do our research and we look into all of these areas, and then we make our decision. So what I'm going to tell you what I think about these. I think there's a lot of good things that come out of the blue zone. And I firmly believe our lifestyle can influence whether we're going to live long and if we're going to live it a good health span, a good quality of life. So even talking about movement in these areas, I don't think incidental movement is enough, specifically with so many other details and things that we live with on a daily basis. I firmly believe that we need strength training. I actually just watched a video with Dr. Gabrielle Lyons and Dr. Mark Hyman talking about how muscle is longevity. Basically, it's going to affect our health span. So it definitely needs strength training. You need cardiovascular training for long life, and studies prove that we need these things. So I think incidental movement on a daily basis is awesome and good. There's way too much sedentary lifestyles going on, not only here in the United States, but worldwide. So movement does mean life. So incidental movement, definitely want that every day. But I still think we need to add in strength training. We want to build muscle and get the cardio training as well. And on that note, nutrition-wise, a plant-based diet, carnivore lifestyle here is really proposed a lot and encouraged a lot. And I do believe we need protein if we're going to build muscle and you're going to work out. You do need protein. So just on a plant-based, I don't know if you can really get enough. And if that lines in, I like the idea that all of them seem to eat a lot of beans. I like beans, so I'm going to take that one in and try to incorporate more. I don't eat it a lot, but I do like beans, so I'm going to do some research on what kind, how to cook them, how to incorporate them more into my life. I think that's a good thing, but definitely I think we need protein as we move forward. We talk about things like stress. I just had a video recently on stress, and we need to take action to try to reduce it. Sleeping is an important one, getting the proper amount of sleep. Then other things that are talked about as far as having connection with people, our family and friends. That's the fourth pillar, dealing with relationships, our family, friendships, having a purpose. And I've mentioned this before. I know a number of individuals who are retiring or want to retire, and they're not sure what they're going to do with their time. They're a little scared that they might get bored. And I mentioned that waking up every morning with a sense of purpose, that actually adds years to your life. So I think that's something that individuals need to find. Many find it in faith, and I'm a person of faith, and I think that that's vital. Interesting, some of the statistics have shown, and this has been researched and studied, that people who have a faith and are active in their faith, they live 4 years, 8 years, even up to 14 years longer. And that's what some of the study and research has shown. So that's certainly important. And So basically, the takeaway is that we can learn from these things. I'm not going to say you shouldn't do the blue zone, you shouldn't move to the blue zone. I'm not saying you should, but there's things that we can learn from it. And at the end of the day, again, you and I have to make the decision what we're going to incorporate in our lives, what we can incorporate. I've talked about that way back in an early video, that there's a million things that are good for us. We'd love to do, I'd love to do, and yet we don't do them. Again, I'm just a regular guy trying to make my way like you are, and I'm trying to present these things out there, hopefully to get you thinking, to inspire and encourage you. So that's my take on the blue zone. Try to extract what we can, some of the good points that make sense. And there are a lot of these that many people in the health field will say, yeah, they're good for you. You got to consider these. But at the end of the day, formulate what's going to work for us, what we're going to stick with. Adherence is vital in anything that we're doing, no matter how good, or if science backs it up and says this is the right way. Adherence is key to really benefit from any of these things. So that's my take. Hope you enjoyed that. I'd like you to smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. But at the end of the day, always exert yourself, elevate your health, and evolve in mind and body. And again, appreciate you watching.